right? That is how humanity has spread across the globe in many ways, right? Some have stayed, some have gone home. What I have found really interesting as you explain this is I'm starting to kind of see how your brain works a little bit in real time, right? Because I know Kelly a little bit, I don't know her very well, but I can see how that partnership would work now. Like, and the fact that you were able to do this at 24, dude, you met me at 24. I was a fucking shithead. Like I was not, going through these analytical if-and clauses at 24.
No, I mean, I'm maybe putting it that way. It was not that complicated. Right? It was more like everybody. Sure. I'm figuring my life.
Yeah.
Right. I'm trying to.
But the fact that you try to do that at 24 is fucking incredible.
Well, back to what we were saying earlier. I think a big part of it was my initial reservations or hesitations about even wanting to come out here in the first place.
Sure.
So I was always questioning that. Like, well, I don't want to be here. Or if it were up to me, I would have not come. So there was always that need to say, like, well, I need to give myself, not anybody else, I need to give myself a reason to stay.
Yeah.
I need to give myself a strong enough motivation to say, like, okay, this is why I'm doing it. And then even if I decided, hey, you know what? No, it's not for me. I'm going to go back to Toronto.
Yeah.
I want to have a strong enough case to tell people that, I care about, I want to tell people that I care about that.
Right.
This is why I've decided to go back. Yeah. Not just because, fuck it. I just came out because he told me to. And
no, I understand. For me, this podcast, I think what we just talked about, this is a clear example of why I want to do this podcast. I have walked my route, and by every measure with you, I would consider you successful and somebody to look up to. You seem happy. You seem relatively well off. You seem to have a family you're very happy with. You had a career you're very happy with. And yet you took such a different route than I did, and I'm trying to fucking learn, like having Howie on here, having Justin on here, like a lot of these men who are older than me. For me, this is a learning process, right? Because I did not have all this shit when I was young. It was me and my mom since I was 6.
Right.
No dad, no uncle, no role model on TV, no role model on podcast.
I had heard on their previous podcast about this.
Yeah, a little. Yeah. So just having you on here and hearing this, it in my head, it's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, I've kind of walked through probably the worst part now in my life. But here's somebody else who's walked it very differently and has come out very well on the other end.
I mean, I can't say I grew up in the same situation because I didn't. But, as I alluded to earlier, a lot of times for me, I looked at certain scenarios. For example, if it was, let's say, I grew up, obviously, I was born in Asia, but I grew up mostly abroad. I left Taiwan when I was 6. Okay. And so, being an immigrant family, having a very traditional Asian value family, with that comes the Western side of things, which is a stark contrast on how the families, let's say, express love, express support, express their aspiration in their kids, and I think me going to a Western educational route, especially earlier on in my life, where there's less asked maybe academically, more explored, let's say, in terms of balance, in terms of, what are your interests, what are your likes, and what are your dislikes, versus the dynamic at home, where it was always just like, okay, well, just because we're not in Asia anymore doesn't mean I don't care about your grades.
Right, yeah.
I remember the first time, I probably shared this story before, but the first report card that my father ever saw in Toronto, it was graded A, B, C, D, E, rather than in a numerical format, right? Yeah. And he saw this letter, and he's like, so wait, I mean, an A is 80 to 100.
Yeah.
So what'd you get?
Yeah.
Did you get 80?
Yeah.
Did you get 90? Did you get 100? I was like, I don't know. Fucking grade 4.
It's an A. It's the best one.
I don't care. I'm grade 4.
Yeah.
He's like, no, I need to know.
Yeah.
Because, he grew up, and my father was a product of 师范学校. So what that is that basically you went to high school at the government's expense, but then you are obligated after you graduate from high school to teach for 2 years before you can move on to
giving back.
Giving back, yeah. And so as a former teacher for 2 years, he saw himself as a guy who maybe needs to demand a little bit more from his kids.
Sure.
So for him, he's like, well, in Taiwan, anything below 96, it's terrible. So I need to know, what
96? Is that what it's at? Dude,
no, because I guess at that point, even like the bad kids in class get like 85. Right. Like if you want to be quote unquote one of the better students, I mean, you're according to him, I don't know because I never went to school in Asia, but according to him, he's like, a 98 and above is the only acceptable score, right? It's just to the decimal point.
I don't think I've ever got there. Your dad would not be very happy with me.
Well, that dynamic, and I think whether it's expression of support or care, I think in Asian families in general versus my Western family counterparts. So I grew up with mostly Caucasian friends. And so what I saw in their family dynamic, what I saw in, let's say, North American culture, whether it's in the movies, whether it's in society, it was a very stark contrast. And, because you grew up in that fabric, you kind of yearn to have that in your own life. Sure, because it's a sense of belonging, it's a sense of want.
Yes.
But you know that...
this is not okay. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
I'm about to turn this off. First time it's ever happened.
Sorry.
Yeah, whatever you want.
Yeah, the sense of want, that you kind of say, okay, I want that for myself.
Yes.
And then at some point, whether you like it or not, or I think most people, maybe not everybody, whether you like it or not, you realize that there are limitations to what your own dad or mom is able to give you versus what you've imagined in your mind as this ideal family.
What Bobby's parents would have given him.
Right. And I think part of that is youth. As a kid, you don't always think about the alternative. Yes. You just see the things you want to see, right? Then part of it is you also kind of come to grips with, okay, maybe I just need to make some concessions. Maybe I need to understand that some of these things are just not going to happen for me. And then you at a very early age maybe need to, and there's varying degrees on how much of that you have to go through, but you need to just decide, okay, well, how am I going to deal with this?
Yes.
And